Hey guys, Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who Classic. Last time around was Dragonfire. I almost forgot. What happened on Dragonfire?
Alright, so the Doctor and Mel, which is her apparently last show, are taken to what appears to be a planet with a giant city on it. We later find out the city is actually like a spaceship run by some guy.
It's not going to be there.
Oh. Anyway, he's been exiled there. He's the only one apparently who knows that the thing is a spaceship. He's looking for something called the Dragonfire, which will power his spaceship and allow him to go home after, 3 millennia. They landed at this cantina where they meet a young girl named Ace, who was actually transported from Earth when she was, playing with nitroglycerin. Didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, they go down into the depths. I don't want to say caves because they weren't actually caves. Turns out the dragon is a robot.
Something.
Yeah, and the dragon's head is what contains the dragon fire that is needed. And there's, a bunch of zombie types who get wasted. And when the bad guy ultimately gets the dragon fire and sets out for home, can't find it, and the doctor says, "Oh, didn't you know your planet was destroyed 2,000 years ago?" And in the probably one of the weirdest things that's ever happened on Doctor Who, the bad guy literally commits suicide by opening one of the spaceport window type things and literally melts in the sunlight because he was made of ice or something. It was very confusing. But Mel goes off with Glitz, which is the least likely thing since Perry went off with the warrior from Flash Gordon. Anyway, so we're done with Mel, done with the screaming, hopefully, and now Ace and her nitroglycerin are here to blow things up.
Yes. It was sort of an odd thing, because Mel was just like, well, I think it's time. It's time for me to leave. There was no actual reason that she gave. It was time. I guess her contract was up. Somehow she broke the fourth wall and knew that, so... So yeah. Today, we're on Remembrance of the Daleks.
Yay.
This is the final of the original classic episodes that we watched, apart from the movie, apart from the modern episodes we've watched, So, there's been something going on Twitter, a debate on Twitter, because a lot of people are saying that with the beginning of the Shutigatwa era, that should now be considered a brand new era, its own classification of show of Doctor Who. Now, the problem I find is we had classic Doctor Who, which was only named classic after the fact, obviously.
Yeah.
Then we had new Doctor Who, which started, admittedly, 19 years ago in 2005. But what do you do after new Doctor Who? A lot of people have come to call it Disney Doctor Who, because Disney does have a small hand in production. They fund a lot of Doctor Who, but for the most part, they don't have creative decisions. So I've seen a lot of Disney doom and gloomers about Doctor Who, the same people that say Disney ruined Star Wars and stuff like that. But I don't see. The thing is, the problem with saying, well, this is a brand new Doctor Who show. It has not been that long since the last one ended, because if you take the end of the Jodie Whittaker era as the end of new Doctor Who, that was at the end of 2021. It is now 2024. That's not even 5 years. Meanwhile, between classic Doctor Who, which ended in 1989, to new Doctor Who, which was 2005, that's a very large gap.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm still just going to call that it's new Doctor Who. It's modern, even though modern starts in 2005.
This new Who
Yes.
which is just starting. Has its season 1 already played in the UK?
No, it starts in May. The most all we've had so far, we've had the 60th anniversary specials, but those are kind of nebulous. They are in the new Russell T Davies era, but people aren't necessarily considering that. So if you take those as the end of New Doctor Who, that was only last year, and then New Doctor Who would have started on Christmas, because that's when Shooting Out was first, and so far only episode has aired. So yeah, I don't know why people are so insistent.
Yeah. Now, will the new Who air in the United States at the same time as the UK? Or is there going to be a delay?
I think if there is a delay, it might be by a couple of hours, but the thing is, I don't know if it's airing on like BBC America specifically, but the streaming rights for new Doctor Who are now on Disney Plus, which I think is great. It means I don't have to use the BBC iPlayer to watch Doctor Who, which I don't think this is really a newsflash for the British people, but the BBC iPlayer is terrible. So it's just so finicky, especially because I have to use a VPN to make it think I'm in England, because it only works for people in the UK. So it's,
you didn't hear that.
But I mean it's all perfectly legal and everything, but now it's just on Disney Plus and it's nice. That's kind of where people are like, well, it should be the Disney era of Doctor Who. And it's like, well, that sounds bad. That just sounds terrible. So I don't know. I don't know why we can't just say it's Series 14, because that's what we're on, you know? So, anywho, I went on a long tangent. Remembrance of the Daleks, that's where I started that sentence.
And if I recall, when we went through all of the different things, when we were doing our tour of Doctor Who before we started doing the whole thing.
Yeah.
For, I don't remember what we saw as the second Doctor's.
That was Tomb of the Cybermen.
Oh, okay, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Third Doctor.
That was...
Wasn't it Spearhead from Space?
No, it was Terror of the Autons.
Oh, okay. Which was still the Autons.
Yeah.
Okay. And we went through, we watched Kinda.
Yeah.
I don't remember what we watched from the Sixth Doctor.
That was Vengeance on Varos, but we didn't get it.
Oh.
We didn't enjoy it the first time around.
But I do remember when we got to this one, that literally next to, what was the one when the Fourth Doctor said, do I have the right to kill all of them?
Genesis of the Daleks.
Right. Next to Genesis of the Daleks, this was the, not second, but 1A or 1B. This was the second best Dalek serial that we had seen.
Yeah.
Because we were impressed by the special effects. Because, let's face it, back in 1963 they were pretty cheesy. Here we are in the 80s, all right? So 20-something years later, and especially the landing of the spacecraft, we were just like, wow, how did they do that for television? So anyway.
Yeah. So of the original tour, we did the Daleks, the original Dalek episode.
It was good.
Tomb of the Cybermen, which was good. Terror of the Autons, which was good as well. Introduction of the Master. Genesis of the Daleks, which was really good. Then we took a break. Came back later, and we did the next four, basically, which was Kinda.
And who recommended that?
That might have been a mistake. Even I feel like even fans of that episode will say that's not a good introduction episode. Yeah. So
and again, considering Castrovalva and Caves of Androzani, either one of those would have been better than Kinda.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to go back and look at all of them and think like what would be like something in the middle of it that would work for the Fifth Doctor. And then we did Vengeance on Varos for the Sixth Doctor. which again, I don't think we just got into it at the time. Like
the one where was it the Mark of the Rani, where they landed in England in the 1800s.
Yeah,
that would have been a good one.
And then we did this Remembrance of the Daleks, and because that was the thing is, Kinda beat us down, like really beat us down, and Vengeance on Varos didn't help us recover at all. And then we watched this, and we were like, oh, okay, there is still good things in Doctor Who. And then we watched the movie, which we also enjoyed.
Yes.
So it was nice. I remember this one being nice. It was fun, and I don't remember entirely the plot. I just remember little moments from it.
What I remember is what we now call Easter eggs. All the little bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Because they do land literally right after the first Doctor and Susan and Ian and Barbara all take off.
Yeah.
And they come back to Cold Hill School. Is that the name of it?
Something like that.
Yeah, there's all this wonderful stuff. And then if I remember, there's two warring factions of Daleks.
Something like that, yeah. Which, to be fair, so this also technically picks up on Revelation of the Daleks, technically, because there were the two warring, there were the Daleks that were created by Davros, and then there were the Daleks that wanted to kill Davros. So I think that still plays into this as well. So, and this was sort of a trilogy, basically, because you had Resurrection of the Daleks, then Revelation, and then Remembrance. The 3 R's of Dalek episodes. So and I don't know if this is the final appearance of the Daleks or not, but it might be. It might be like the final actual Dalek episode in classic Doctor Who. So I don't know. I guess we'll have to find out.
And no Terry Nation involvement in this, if I recall.
No. He's been long gone for a good while. So and then this is the part where we'll watch the intro and it'll say written by Terry Nation and be like, oh, I guess we were completely wrong, but I don't know. You got anything else?
I got nothing.
Then let's just go ahead and jump right into Remembrance of the Daleks.
Now, because this is a first of the season, are you going to...
Oh, yeah. It's the beginning of the season. You can watch the full length for free. You know what? We've done this 25 times already, so you probably know the gist of it by now, but it's down in the description. We're watching this on Amazon BritBox because Amazon is great, so you can do that and hopefully have a good time and come back for the discussion. So... No, the Daleks killed JFK. They've been hiding that for so many years. You know, I honestly wouldn't put that past an episode of modern Doctor Who.
They did an episode very similar to that in Quantum Leap. The guy, he starred in Enterprise.
Scott Bakula.
Scott Bakula. Leaped from body to body, and he leaped into the body of Lee Harvey Oswald and tried to figure out how he could prevent himself from shooting JFK. I don't think in 1963 they would have been allowed to wear jeans with their uniforms. And that kind of boombox did not exist in 1963.
Well, not in 1963, but it's on the TARDIS, surely.
Anachronistic for this time period.
Professor, I'm hungry. Lack of food makes me hungry, you know.
Lack of food makes you obstreperous. Why don't you go and buy some consumables? There's a cafe down there, while I undertake a detailed and scientific examination of that van that has so singularly failed to grab your attention.
Right.
Got it.
Ace!
What?
Money.
Oh.
I love the idea that she found the boombox and the bat in the TARDIS and just decided to take them.
No, that's right.
Would have been funny if that was a young Lethbridge Stewart.
Well, now these are proto-unit.
Whatever fired that weapon's trapped in there. There's no way out.
How can you be sure?
I've been here before.
I like he doesn't make a big fuss about coming back here.
Doctor, I assure you these men are hand-picked. They can deal with anything, provided they can see it. Right, men, take up positions.
You know what's nice about this episode? It just gets right to the action. How often does Doctor Who do that?
What am I dealing with? Little green men?
No, little green blobs in bonded polycarbide armour.
Grenades are ready, sir.
Group Captain Gilmore.
Fire.
Humans.
Fire!
I mean, you'd think that would work.
Blue 4, this is Red 6, come in, please.
Cell phone.
Blue 4, Group Captain Gilmore requested you pick up an ambulance and proceed to Bravo Delta.
Took 50 years to get remotely smaller than that. Oof. Good job.
They're the mutated remains of a species called the Daleks. Left here.
One with the left here.
No, turn left here.
Oh, right.
No, left, you missed the turning.
What? Turn where?
Why don't you concentrate on where you're going?
Look, I'm doing the best I can. If you don't like it, you drive.
Huh.
The Daleks were at war
That
with
worked
the
out.
Mars. And ever since the Daleks were created, they've tried to conquer and enslave as much of the universe as they get their grubby little protuberances on.
And now they want to conquer the Earth.
Nothing so mundane. They conquer the Earth in the 22nd century.
Meh.
We've got reason to believe there's a great evil at work somewhere in this school.
You'll have to be a bit more specific, Doctor. But I don't think it would do any harm if you were to have just a quick look round.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
That's not suspicious in the least.
I wouldn't be so pleased if I had a bunch of Daleks on my case.
You can always judge a man by
The
the
first
quality of his
Easter egg.
enemies.
Well,
French Revolution.
it's like
Look at this.
the exact next day.
Wasn't that what Susan was studying?
Come on,
The
look at
French
this.
Revolution.
Yeah, maybe. It's been a while since that first episode.
But this is Earth, 1963. Well, someone would have noticed. I'd have heard about it.
Do you remember the Zygon Gambit with the Loch Ness Monster? Or the Yetis in the underground?
Meh.
What?
Your species has the most amazing capacity for self-deception, matched only by its ingenuity when trying to destroy itself.
It's really the first time they've explained of just humans just forget.
Stairs!
Don't trip on them.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, jeez. Oh no, they fly now.
I think we said that the first time we saw it. Levitating Daleks.
Whew. This one's a ride.
All right.
I really can't believe they didn't have the group captain either be the young brigadier or like the brigadier's father or something.
Well, yeah. Well, that one went by so fast, I feel like. Honestly, it's like... This honestly might be like the best episode we've had in like 5 years. I'm not even saying like 5 years of watching everything. I mean like the past 5 seasons.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man. There's just something about this. It just goes.
Well, it's first of all, it's a good plot. The Daleks have followed him back to 1963. We've never heard of the Hand of Omega before. We've heard of Omega and all of the stuff that goes with that. But so the mystery is then, what is the hand? What did he do with it? Why did he do that? But what we do know is the Daleks, and there seem to be more than one kind of Dalek. I mean, it's all the hints are there. And see, that's what I like about something, is that it is not so subtle that you can't go, wait a minute, if this is that, then what is this over here? And so it's very well written. It's very well paced. And of course, it's got the extra added attraction of going back to the junkyard where we first saw the TARDIS and Coal Hill School. And seriously, the Easter egg, the French Revolution book that Susan was reading. So it's fun.
Yeah.
If you've been there from the beginning, like we have now.
Yeah.
And I was. So it's very cool.
Yeah, and just, I don't know, there's just something about it, it goes straight into the action, which is nice. And like you were saying, there's the subtle differences. I mean, it's something where it's like, especially because we've watched this for so long now, that it's like, it's actually kind of subtle, yet a bit obvious, where it's like, well, the Dalek that was in the yard was a black Dalek, and this one that's attacking him is now a white Dalek, and honestly, you may not pick up on something like that, Like, even just as simple as just a color swap is very subtle, honestly, so...
And again, I like the fact that Sylvester McCoy is not a completely new Doctor. There are bits and pieces. You see the crankiness of Hartnell. You see kind of the playfulness of Tom Baker. He's literally got a little bit of all of them in there. And that's kind of fun, because instead of having to get used to an entirely new one like we did, especially with Colin Baker, which was so jarring, although, we ultimately worked into it.
Yeah.
He has flashes of each of the others, and you go, oh yeah, it's fun. It's more fun than we've had in a long time.
And he immediately works so much better with Ace than he ever did with Mel, which is so strange, because it's like they weren't really bad, but something about they just did not like vibe together, really. Where, because it's a strange thing, it's like I've seen some people say like Mel worked better as a Sixth Doctor companion, but it was really only one story that the two of them had together, But that worked so much better. But now, the Seventh Doctor and Ace just work very, very well. So, it'll never get through this wooden door.
What's the matter with him?
Stomachache.
School dinners.
Oh, it actually did get through the wooden door. Good shot.
Where's Harry?
Visiting his missus. She's in hospital.
Of course.
Your tea?
I like he kept up on that even after they left.
What if I could control people's taste buds? What if I decided that no one would take sugar? That'd make a difference to those who sell the sugar and those who cut the cane.
My father, he was a cane cutter.
Exactly. Now, if no one had used sugar, your father would have been a cane cutter.
If this sugar thing had never started, my great-grandfather wouldn't have been kidnapped, chained up, and sold in Kingston in the first place. I'd be an African.
See? Every great decision creates ripples. Like a huge boulder dropped in a lake. The ripples merge, rebound off the banks in unforeseeable ways. The heavier the decision, the larger the waves, the more uncertain the consequences.
Life's like that. Best thing is just to get on with it.
He looks very familiar.
This got really real for a second. I like that the soundtrack has graduated to rock opera.
Oh, yes. I probably told you this before. The first place we lived, in Herringswell, they delivered our milk to our front doorstep in bottles. And like that milk you had last week or the week before, you had to shake it up because it was not homogenized. The cream was up at the top.
It would never be enough.
Good morning. I believe this belongs to you.
You need to drop off at least 5, maybe 6 bottles every morning for me.
Yes, the doctor. Just one thing, Governor. I thought you said he was an old geezer with white hair.
Now, let's see what you can make of this.
It's weird that he has this.
Follow me.
Yes, all right, Governor. Oh, cheerio, Doctor. But, Doctor, what about you?
It's like a dog.
Are you ready for war, Mr. Ratcliffe?
Yes. This country fought for the wrong cause in the last war. When I spoke out, they had me imprisoned.
You will be on the right side in this war.
Well, I mean, at that point, Nazis would join up with the Daleks.
I'm just going out for a breath of fresh air. All right, there.
This is BBC Television. The time is 5:15, and Saturday viewing continues with an adventure in the new science fiction series,
And I was there.
We got the soundtrack and everything. No.
Small human female sighted on level 3.
What are you calling small?
Under a tree.
Good job. I wanted to, like, parry it back like a Jedi. You know what's nice? I no longer have to say I miss Leela. Alrighty, and that is part 2.
Again, just the subtle references, the sign in the boarding house that says no coloreds. And it's nice to know that by the 80s they had, for the most part, forgotten about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was, just before we moved to England, I lived in Montgomery, Alabama for 4 years. And that was a daily thing in Montgomery, Alabama.
Well.
Remember, that's where Rosa Parks was.
Well. Oh, boy. I mean, this episode, it's like miraculous how good this episode is. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I expected this to not be as good the second time around or what, but it's just like, just watching this, like, it's so good compared to, like, the last 5-6 seasons, maybe.
Yeah.
You know? And even just, like, again, it's just nice to have a companion who will just attack things. It's, Jamie, Leela, and now Ace. That's like the holy trinity of companions. And there have been other great companions as well.
Let's not forget Warrior Barbara.
That's true. That's true. How could I forget the warrior Barbara? So yeah, it's just, I don't know. There's just something about it, and it's fast paced. Like when we got to that scene there, I was like, oh, I guess that's the end of the episode, isn't it? Because they'll build up a cliffhanger there, and it's like, man, is that the end of that part? Jeez, like that. It's like it's going by so fast. It's just, I don't know, 25 years, and they finally figured out how to write a Doctor Who story.
Yeah.
So, and this is like a new guy, I think, too.
The couple of other times where we've revisited the same place, like Peladon, they went to the same place but in different times. And I think what works for this is they've gone back to the exact same place at the exact same time, which allows you then to plug into all that dynamic from season 1, episode 1.
Well, yeah.
3, 2, 1, down!
Mind-blowing.
Yeah.
See, Professor.
Yeah. Ooh.
Listen.
What was that?
It mutated again. Here, come and have a look.
I was gonna say that was much more like pincer or claw.
And I don't want them here just yet.
No, but I was hoping Ace would keep that forever.
I was going to say, she brought that with her, didn't she? Because they didn't have aluminum bats in 63.
Yeah. You always have to flip it up when you take a step. Ah, yes. The gravestone that has a butt written on it.
For one thing, Group Captain, I was not hired, I was drafted. And for another, do you think I'm enjoying having some space vagrant come along and tell me that the painstaking research I've devoted my life to has been superseded by a bunch of tin-plated pepper pots?
Steady on.
Steady on, you dragged me down from...
Excellent.
Good. I'll tell my man. After all, he found it.
Mike, there's a phone call for you in the headmaster's office.
Thanks.
You know, since he's kind of a turncoat, even though we're not really sure, do you think his name is a reference to Mike Yates?
Maybe.
Is the street not level, or why are they wobbling so much?
I would say it might be cobblestone, but I don't think so.
Council hasn't fixed the potholes in years.
Land of Omega's inside this box. Most powerful and sophisticated remote stellar control manipulator device ever constructed.
Are you sure you want the Daleks to have it?
Absolutely.
Why did he have it? I'm still curious about that.
Maybe that was why he came to Earth in the first place, was to drop it off. Keep anybody from getting it.
Maybe. You know, you could cut all 4 of these episodes together and just be an 80s movie.
I think I might have miscalculated.
Again, they're just flying by. Again, you take all 4 episodes, you cut out the cliffhangers, put it in the movie theaters in 1988. I think this would work.
Yeah.
So.
And again, whatever Aronovich, the author, he has gone back. Apparently, to me, it appears that he has gone back and looked at all of the Dalek stories, and he has decided to take everything he can, which is something that they have not done before. A lot of the Dalek stories have no relation to anything that's gone before them. But he is putting together the basic premise that you have the Imperial Daleks and the Renegade Daleks, and then literally at this point the Doctor is, again, almost secondary to the whole thing. And that, I think, is what makes it so watchable, is because the back of your mind, even if you're not totally aware of it, is going, wait a minute. I seem to remember, who was it that landed on the planet and supposedly destroyed the Emperor Dalek? Was that the 4th or 5th Doctor?
The Emperor Dalek.
Emperor Dalek, yeah. Because you remember they had that big blow up. They were on the... So anyway, this writer has got just enough of all the stuff from the past that if you've been watching for the last 25 years,
yeah,
that you would go, oh, wait a minute, I kind of remember that. So it holds your interest because you, as a viewer, are trying to put together everything that you've watched before.
You know, I think the other thing, because you mentioned that, like, well, the Doctor is almost secondary in this because, you know, it's about the 2 warring factions. I think the reason this works better than most Colin Baker stories is that the Doctor is trying to be secondary.
Yeah.
He's manipulating both sides of the Daleks to destroy each other. Whereas, like, in Revelation of the Daleks, he's just kind of walking around until the end when he talks to Davros, and that's about it. Yeah. Whereas here, it's like he is still in control, or as in control as he can be. Yeah. And he's actively trying to be in the background, basically, of the overall larger plot.
And as many of our followers have said, that's a very second Doctor trait.
Yeah.
That a lot of times that Troughton would stand back a little bit even though he was manipulating the entire thing.
Yeah. And I get that. I see it more with McCoy. Maybe it's just a bit more obvious.
Springtime allergies.
Maybe it's just a bit more obvious with McCoy. I don't know. Or maybe like the story lends itself more to that. I don't know. I feel like I missed a lot of that with the Second Doctor.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, a lot of our commenters have said we missed a lot of that.
Yeah. It was a long time ago now. But yeah, like I definitely see it more here. And I mean, like I didn't really see most of that last season even. So it's like it's definitely something explicit in this episode specifically. So
remember the first time we watched this, I was very impressed with this special effect.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like they really lowered a gigantic thing there.
Which I think we ultimately learned that they did. They had a crane that they lowered.
Area 2509, player.
Dalek fight.
Order! Special weapons, Dalek! Into position!
Well, the heavy.
The Dalek tank. Eat lead, renegades.
Woof. Not even a body left.
Blew them out of their shoes. It is the Emperor.
Oh no.
And now, young Jedi, you will die.
Renegade Daleks are blobs. Blobs? Imperial Daleks are bionic blobs with bits added. Well, you can tell that Daleks are into racial purity. So one lot of Daleks reckon that the other lot of blobs are too different. Well, they're mutants. Not pure in their blobbiness.
So? Order all forces to make immediate withdrawal!
They will return in 4 days. Yeah, tough luck, mate.
I don't suppose you could let us know what your plan is.
It's a surprise.
Good. I love surprises.
I feel bad for the Professor.
This is the Doctor, President-elect of the High Council of Time Lords, Keeper of the Legacy of Rassilon, Defender of the Laws of Time, Protector of Gallifrey. I call upon you to surrender the Hand of Omega and return to your customary time and place.
You know it's important when he starts saying titles.
You have confounded me for the last time!
Oh, Davros.
I should have known.
You're in a mess.
Will you return the Hand of Omega or not?
Are you threatening me?
Master Jedi.
If so, it is most unwise.
Every time our paths have crossed, I have defeated you.
I mean, it's true.
We shall become all
powerful! Crush the lesser races! Conquer the galaxy! Unimaginable power! Unlimited rice pudding! Etc. etc.
Just enter me, Doctor! I can destroy
We enjoy our pudding, thank you.
whole planet Scarlo about to vaporize! You have tricked me!
You fell for it, fool.
15!
Bye, Davros. It hasn't been pleasant.
Emperor abandoning grid!
She is outie.
The resulting explosion destroyed Scarrow, and the feedback destroyed the mothership. The Hand of Omega is now returning to Gallifrey.
There's a lot of Daleks he just
Stay
murdered.
there.
Oh, jeez. She's so powerful. Broke the whole staircase.
Your home planet, a burnt cinder, circling a dead sun.
There is no data.
Even Davros, your creator, is dead.
For real this time. Kicker to be sure. He literally talked a Dalek out of existence.
Dust to dust.
This is like the most hardcore the Doctor's been in years.
Doctor,
Yes,
we did good, didn't we?
perhaps. Time will tell. Always does.
Was that Mike?
I think so. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
they killed all the space Nazis, so I think you did good. So, okay.
Well, very well written, very well directed.
Yeah. Even on second viewing, it's still just as good.
Yeah.
If not maybe a bit better. It's certainly one of the best Dalek episodes they've ever made.
Yes.
So, and even like, there's not much that, like, you know, we talk about, like, it's kind of a trilogy of Resurrection, then Revelation, and then this. It's only kind of that. And that's only because of Davros, honestly. It's interesting, though, that from the last time we saw him, where I'm pretty sure he was arrested by the Daleks, that somehow he really turned his situation around.
Yeah.
Because the Empire of the Daleks was his, and the Daleks that have been against him in previous episodes are now the renegade Daleks. But in a sense, they're the genuine Daleks. They're not the artificially enhanced ones that obey Davros. So,
Now, if this is, in fact, the last Dalek episode, the first one that we watched with Eccleston.
that would be the next one then.
Yes. So, where did that Dalek come from? Did he explain it? I know that the guy in Utah bought it.
The explanation is that he's the last. He was the last Dalek of the Time War.
Oh.
So even from this, there either are still some more Daleks out there somewhere, or something or other that eventually become part of the Time War, which overall is mainly just the Daleks versus the Time Lords. So,
okay. I just thought it would be cool if the writer of the Eccleston episode somehow went back and found one of these and said, we'll make this one the last survivor.
Yeah. And I did kind of think of that too. And it's interesting. I could definitely see this as being sort of another act of aggression, because a lot of people say, like, I guess sort of the instigation of the Time War is actually Genesis of the Daleks, because it's the Time Lords taking a direct action to wipe the Daleks out of existence. So that's sort of the beginning of it, and then it escalates into the overall conflict that we technically don't see ever, you know? So I could also see this being another one of, even though it was, you know, it was mainly going against Davros instead of the Daleks themselves, still, I mean, he destroyed Skaro completely.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing, it's like, you know, we see the Doctor do things, and we see him do it, you know, whenever the Doctor needs to get, you know, kind of dark, it will be against the Daleks, but we've never seen him just completely, without any really, like, problems or concerns, he just wiped them all out. So,
but he did offer them the opportunity not to do it. He said, I'm begging you, don't do this. You know, he didn't actually come out and say, you don't know what you're doing, but he basically said, if you do this, you will regret it.
Yeah.
So, again, that's the thing we said with Batman Begins.
Yeah.
I don't have to kill you. I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you.
Yeah, it's that the thing that destroyed Skaro was Davros using the Hand of Omega specifically. So yeah, technically it is not necessarily the Doctor's fault. I am still kind of curious why the Doctor had the Hand of Omega to begin with. Now you say that, maybe that's why he just went to Earth. But part of the thing is that he did, and I think it's been established by this point, that he stole the TARDIS specifically, and, he went rogue, basically, and eventually they ended up on Earth. So, if that's the case, then why would he have the Hand of Omega? Unless a Time Lord trusted him with it? I don't see the Time Lords trusting him with anything. Unless, I don't know, I don't know if there's another story that maybe explains that.
Yeah. Well, to me, that is the simplest explanation, is that he had to steal the old TARDIS because he knew the destructive power, not just the creative power, but the destructive power of the hand, and therefore he stole the TARDIS to take the hand and try to get somewhere where the Gallifreyans would not follow him. Now, he probably had other adventures, etc., etc., but ultimately thought, here's this obscure little out-of-the-way planet, I will take it there, I will bury it, and that way, when I leave, no one will know that it's here.
That does also kind of make sense, because when you think about, every time the Doctor says, well, I stole a TARDIS because I just wanted to go have adventures and see the universe, see time and everything, it's interesting because, I can believe that of almost every Doctor, except, honestly, the first Doctor. The idea that he did that specifically, that he went and stole that TARDIS, it almost seems out of character for him. So I could almost see, I could see that as a sort of, a moral responsibility for him to steal the Hand of Omega as well. But I don't know. You could also go the other way, if he did genuinely want to go and see the universe, even that version of him, So, I mean, it's definitely a thing of, they never really discuss what the Doctor is like before the first episode, which is ironic, because it's the life of the first incarnation of the Doctor is such a mystery. He had a family, but we don't really know anything about them other than he had a granddaughter. That implies he did get married, he did have at least one child who eventually had Susan. But even that's not concrete, because then there are other theories about how he actually has a granddaughter and everything. And it's just an interesting thing that it's the one thing, I mean, along with his name, that Doctor Who will just never go into. Technically, they go past the first Doctor, and they try to explain stuff before that incarnation, which is a whole can of worms that no one wants to get into. But that specific incarnation, the younger version, basically, of the first Doctor, no writer wants to get into that, basically. They want to leave that as much a mystery as they can.
Yeah.
So,
but, I mean, you want to talk about profitable Disney venture, a whole new series like Torchwood and what was the other one, Sarah Jane Adventures.
Yeah.
Young Doctor Who. Or just the Young Doctor.
Yeah.
To show him, again, not necessarily why he left, but the early adventures before he got to be 450 years old, ending up on Earth.
You saying that Disney should make a show like that has just struck fear into the hearts of every Doctor Who fan watching this.
But that's what Disney does,
It is what Disney does, for better or for worse.
Well, and this parallel here. There's a TV show that your mother and I have been watching for 20-something years now. It's called NCIS. something investigative service, criminal investigations. And the person who headed it for 18 of those years was Special Agent Gibbs. Well, he left the show about 2-3 years ago, and now the people who own the franchise and have spun off like 3 or 4 others are now going to do one called NCIS Origins, where they go to the young Agent Gibbs when he first joins NCIS and then takes him up to... So, I mean, that's a thing now. People want to know, what is the backstory?
Yeah.
And again, if anybody is, let's say, brilliant or stupid enough to do it, it would probably be Disney.
And I mean, it's also... Star Trek kind of has done a similar thing. Like, you know, they have the Strange New World show, which it's a spin-off of Discovery, and it's about Captain Pike when he was the captain of the Enterprise, and it also has their version of Spock. And recently, I think in the 2nd season, they introduce Kirk just as like a lieutenant or something, and that's an interesting thing that, honestly, it's like, with the exception of the reboot movie from 2009, there has like, you don't really get into Kirk's past, you know, or even I think the 2nd season of Star Trek Picard, which we didn't watch, but that kind of goes into like Picard's childhood a bit. So it's an interesting thing, and of course, if you want, you know, the king of over-explaining everything that has ever happened in the history of time, Star Wars has got you covered. Yes. It is ridiculous to varying degrees of success. I generally like all the Star Wars shows, but I do know there are people that have problems with it. So it's a thing of like, I don't know. I don't know if they could do it. I don't know anyone who would want to take on that task. Like, I don't even think, you know, Russell T Davies would want to take on a task of a show about a younger version of the Doctor. So I don't know. It would be difficult, and if that is like one thing I think most Doctor Who fans would agree on, is that they wouldn't want that. So
and of course, I thought of this while you were talking about her. Susan could be adopted.
It's entirely possible. Well, and because that's like one of the theories is that, well, there's a theory that there's the 3 founders of Gallifrey and Time Lords. There's Omega, there's Rassilon, and then there's someone called the Other. The idea is that the Other had a granddaughter named Susan, and then eventually the Other dies and is reincarnated into the Doctor, who goes back in time, finds Susan, who says, "Hey, you're clearly my grandfather," and then they go on these adventures. I don't know how many people subscribe to that. I don't know. It's like, I don't know. Like, that might be in a book, that might be in an audio, that might be in a comic book from 30 years ago that 5 people have read and made a YouTube video on. I have no idea, but that's a theory, at least. Yeah. And technically there is actual in-show canon of like a younger-ish version of the Doctor, a predecessor basically to the Doctor, which again was a whole can of worms. Half the people love it, half the people hate it, and the other half are like me, that are just kind of indifferent to it.
Would be 3 halves.
Exactly. That's how complicated it is. So, and even like, you know, back in like the Brain of Morbius, they imply like, oh, maybe there were, you know, regenerations before the first Doctor. So, I don't know. But other stuff with this episode, again, it's just a nice, you know, good paced episode. Like, it's, I don't know. And like last season, I'm trying to remember the episodes last season, but last season was good, but there's such a striking difference between this episode and the 4 stories of last season, you know? It's like, you know, you had Time of the Rani, which was good, a bit slow. You had, what came after that one? Paradise Towers, which was good. Delta and the Bannerman, which was all right, and then Dragonfire, which was all right. And it's like, all of those are all right. And then this one is just really good. It's tight. It's fast-paced. And honestly, maybe even half of that is just the interaction between the Doctor and Ace being so much better than the interaction between the Doctor and Mel. Like, they had to tell Ace to stop for a little while. That's such an interesting thing. Like, Ace is so good that she'll probably fix too many things if we have her in every scene, so we have to tell her to stay put for a little bit. Yeah. Otherwise, give her that baseball bat and something will be resolved.
It also strikes me that this four-parter and the destruction of the Daleks, somebody might have been thinking, well, if the series is going to end, why not wrap it up pretty much the way it started? The Daleks were the second episode.
Yeah.
So, if they were under the impression that maybe the series was going to end, they wanted to go out with a bang, and that would have been it.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, because there's only 3 more stories this season. And then we'll have the final season. And again, I don't think it really, wraps up. I think it's just, the season just ends, and then it's just well, that's it. They didn't come back. So, I don't know. Maybe if there was a bit of, writing on the wall about it, I don't know. But it just, there's something about it. It's I enjoyed Colin Baker. I enjoyed Peter Davison, and the latter half of Tom Baker I still think was pretty decent. But this felt like, one of the first episode in so long where it felt like, Doctor Who wasn't tripping over its own shoes, basically. And there have been a lot of good episodes, even in those eras, don't get me wrong. But it just felt like it was Doctor Who at its best. It's it's technically, you could say it's a semi-historical, being 20 years in the past. There's interesting characters. There's a good dynamic between, the Doctor and his companion. Even the military works out. They are very unit-like. And, and the plot, even for it being Daleks, the Daleks are so simple and so easy that you really have to work to make them really interesting, but it just works so much better. This didn't end with the giant bloodbath at the end of Resurrection of the Daleks, even though a lot of Daleks were harmed in the production of this episode. But, I don't know, just something about this, worked so much better, Yeah. And I think, part of the aspect of, the Doctor working with the military and, telling some things, not telling some things, and seeing them trying to deal with the Daleks. I don't know, just something about this worked where I feel like so many recent seasons, overall seasons, have not worked in Doctor Who. Yeah. So, and it's crazy that this guy, I'm pretty sure he's a brand new writer to Doctor Who.
Yeah,
so
I don't remember seeing his name.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's just, and it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like tensions are high with the writers. And I know people have tried to correct me of oh, there's not really a writer's room, there's just a writer. And it's well, that's still technically a writer's room. And there's a writer and then there's a script editor. And from what I've heard, someone writes a story and then the script writer throws that away and writes his own story instead. Yeah. So I don't know. This doesn't feel like any of the script writers we've had for 5 seasons was involved in this at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just really, really worked. Even the second time around, And again, there have been great episodes, Vengeance on Varos the second time around, we thought it was much better. So, I don't know. I just really, really enjoyed this one.
I did too, yes.
And then, in terms of the other plot stuff, I guess we pretty much covered everything.
Now, I did miss mentioning the first Easter egg, which is when they were going into the school for the first time. There was the sign on the outside, you remember, said, "Headmaster I. Chesterton." Wasn't that in the very first episode?
I don't know if it was... don't know if it said that specifically, because he wouldn't have been... I don't think he was the headmaster, but...
I thought that's what... But anyway.
Maybe. I don't know. We'd have to go back and look, so... and we're not going to do that, because we can't be bothered, so... but yeah, but otherwise... And again, just like a great setting, and I feel like it works having it at Totter's Lane without being, like, overly, like... Well, we're relying on, I guess what people will call the member berries of, oh, look at all these references, isn't that cool? And it's like, honestly, it's really just a setting for the episode. It's like, it's a giant coincidence. This honestly didn't even need to be in Totter's Lane. You could have had the exact same plot line going on in 1988, and it would have worked just fine, but having it there just makes it that little bit better, basically. It's the icing on the cake, basically. So, you got anything else?
I got nothing.
Alrighty. So next up is the Happiness Patrol. Which I think I hear some good things about this one. I think this is another, like, best of McCoy episodes. Either that or I'm completely off the mark and it's a complete 180 of whatever I just said. So, but we will have to see. With all of that being said, we're Alex and Evan from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist with all of our classic Doctor Who reactions, as well as another playlist for all of my modern Doctor Who reactions if you want to go check those out. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.